Starfield is going to be one of the biggest games of 2023 and possibly of all time. Since it has already been delayed a number of times, we have actually gotten a lot of information about the game from its release date, exploration, character creation, and so much more. And what is up guys, Andrew from the Den Men here, and today I thought it would be a good idea to take a look at everything we know about Starfield going into the showcase. There's a lot out there already, so if you are excited, make sure you hit that like button and comment what you are excited to see in Starfield. I'm gonna try to be sticking to the facts in this video, so anything that has been rumored or not from Xbox or Bethesda themselves will not be in this video. But with that being said, we have a lot to go over, so kick back, strap into your seat, and let's blast off into today's video. The first thing we need to talk about is obviously the release date. We got this a little while back alongside some other news and gets me very excited for the future. It is just awesome to see that the rumor mill surrounding the release of the game is finally over. It has been a long time coming, but Starfield will finally launch on September 6th, 2023. It is amazing to see that we got that release date and put all of the rumors to rest for good. I will say though that this was probably the best course of action that Bethesda and Microsoft could have taken. I know a lot of people out there will probably be upset that the game didn't release in that first half window that they promised all the way back to E3 of last year. But to me, if they needed the time to get this right, then they can take the extra 3 months or so. It's good to see that Bethesda is learning from their mistakes and wanting to make it the least buggy it possibly can be. Even though this is technically a delay from when they said it was supposed to release, September is a good time to launch Starfield in my opinion. This is Microsoft's flagship game of 2023, and launching it in the summer could hurt the game in the long term, and on top of that could have led to a more buggy and less enjoyable experience. I will say that this is probably the last time it is going to get delayed. I know what you're all going to say, we have been burned twice already, but Bethesda were not going to give us another release date unless they were 100% sure they could hit that mark. Tying together the whole release date thing, we also learned when we will be seeing the direct for the game. Now for those who don't know, Microsoft started to do individual showcases of their first party companies, and the first one we got was all the way back in January. The studios included during the previous one were Arcane with Redfall, Mojang with their new Minecraft game, and a couple of others out there. These developer directs sort of highlight individual aspects of the game and give us extended looks into what we would be seeing. Microsoft is coming back around with a standalone showcase just for Starfield so we can get an in-depth look into various mechanics and features we would be seeing. This will be held on June 11th of this year, a little under 3 months until Starfield actually launches. To a lot of fans out there, the whole point of the standalone showcase was to give us the release date, but since we already got that, Bethesda can focus more on showing us the actual game itself. What's interesting about Starfield Showcase is that it is kind of an extension of the Xbox one we will be getting on the same day. What that means is Xbox is hosting their annual summer showcase on June 11th of 2023. It just so happens that Starfield's lands on the same day but at different times. The Xbox one will start at 1 PM Eastern, and immediately following that will be the deep dive into everything Starfield. This is exciting to see because instead of Starfield having a 5-minute trailer for the game, we will be getting an in-depth look right after the Xbox showcase. That means we will be getting a good look into what we need to know about everything for the game. This gets me really excited because even though we will have to wait just a little bit longer to get the game in our hands, there is a lot more they can still show off. Next up, let's get into the story for Starfield. We don't know much about the story, but there are a couple of tidbits here and there we can pull together to create a good idea of it. About 50 light years away from our solar system is the Settled Systems, which houses the main quest for the game. There are obviously a lot more planets and systems out there, but we will get into that a little later on. So, Starfield takes place in 2330, and there was one big event that is basically everything we know about the story as of right now. 20 years before the start of the game, there was a colony war between the two biggest factions of the Settled Systems with the Freestar Collective and United Colonies. What you really need to know is that it ended with an uneasy peace that is still kept up to this day. A good chunk of this main questline looks to be centered around these disc-looking objects, but we don't know their purpose just yet, and from what we can tell, they will be playing a big role for the game. Somehow these discs grant visions to the player, and that is how we get wrapped up in the main questline. We know from the trailers that we will be trying to uncover the mysteries of the galaxy and to understand the meaning of human life among the stars. I know up to this point the story for the game has been more than a little vague, but I think this is the right choice all things considered. I like that they are keeping the story close to their chest and not letting anything leak on that end. Personally, I can't wait to see what the story of the game will evolve into, but I'm curious, what do you guys make of the story for the game? Drop a comment letting me know. Following the main story, we have a number of factions we will be following in game, including the main ones of Constellation and the United Colonies. The goal for Constellation is to discover the mysteries of space and will tether the game to its sci-fi roots really well. The United Colonies, on the other hand, are a massive militaristic empire in the settled systems. The capital city is New Atlantis, which has been shown off during the E3 showcase of last year and is described as a melting pot of all people. On the flip side of the United Colonies, we have the Free Star Collective, a loose federation between 3 star systems. The Free Star Collective believe that people should have their own freedom and be allowed to live as individuals. There's a sort of sub-faction within the organization as well, with the Free Star Rangers set on Aquila City. We don't exactly know what they will be like, but I imagine this is how we will be able to interact with the Free Star Collective. Going a little deeper into the sci-fi trope just a little more is the space pirate faction known as the Crimson Fleet. Instead of having them as just another faction to fight, Bethesda's already confirmed that you'll be able to join them or turn them into the authorities. This leads into some very unique storylines that we could go on, and I am excited to see where they take us. The last major faction of Starfield is Ryujin Industries. What makes them so unique is you will be able to join them by being hired. I'd be interested to see how far Bethesda will take them, with us possibly being able to rise up the ranks and become the CEO. A way to see the everyday life of Starfield will make for an interesting storyline, and I can't wait to see what Ryujin Industries has to offer. So those are the major factions, but there are a lot of other little factions as well, like the Ecliptic Mercenaries. The Ecliptic Mercenaries are described as bounty hunters who travel across space to carry out dangerous missions from their clients. I would love to see them as a playable faction just from the vibe they give off. This one has a lot of potential as a great space bounty hunter storyline and would definitely become a fan favorite very quickly. If done correctly, Bethesda has a great faction to introduce to the player, and I can't wait to see what the Ecliptic Mercenaries are in Starfield. Next up is the fanatical cult of House Va'Run. This one we don't have a lot of info on except that they are made up of religious zealots. This doesn't really give us a lot to go off on, but what makes them so unique is the fact that they are a group of zealots found throughout the settled systems. If I had to make a comparison just from a brief description we have on them right now, I would say that they are like the children of Adam from the Fallout series. I'd be interested to see if we would be able to join the House Va'Run like we were able to do with the Children of Adam in Far Harbor, but we will just have to wait and see on that end. The Spacers are a faction that we know the least about, except for their violent nature. I imagine they will become somewhat of an antagonist for the player, but it could definitely go in a lot of different ways the more Bethesda reveals. Moving on past the story and the factions though, we have to talk about the different gameplay features we will be seeing in Starfield. There are a lot of different features that make up the world of Starfield, but one that I am very excited to actually play around with is its exploration. Exploration is a big allure for a lot of the game, and for Starfield to have over 1,000 planets makes this even larger than anyone could have possibly imagined. Yes, a lot of those worlds will be procedurally generated, but they will also be fully explorable from edge to edge. That means every single planet that we are getting will be traversed around the whole world. From those that are procedurally generated to the number of ones that will be handcrafted, we'll be seeing a lot of different mysteries, secrets, and Easter eggs to uncover. Take Mars for instance, which will be playable in Starfield and we can see in a big way with its own major colony of Cydonia. There will be a number of these focused on the idea of space Easter eggs, and I imagine some will be bigger than others. Now, we know that planets will be playing a big role for exploration in the game. I mean, there are over 1,000 of them, so I assume we will be seeing a number of hidden Easter eggs throughout the game. Next up, I've gathered a list of planets starting with Jemison. This one houses the capital of the United Colonies with the city of New Atlantis. As far as we know of right now, the surrounding area of Jemison is mostly forest and rocky mountains. This will most likely be a more advanced planet, with the city of New Atlantis being a focal point in the settled systems. Next one up is the first world we got to see in the gameplay showcase with Crete. This location is home to an abandoned research facility that we see from the gameplay, but mostly consists of barren lands with rock formations scattered throughout. This is exactly what I would expect from a desolate moon and is very reminiscent of a lot of other space sci-fi adventures. There are 2 other major planets outside of the system of Sol, with the one that houses Neon and the world with Aquila City. Neon, from all we know about it, is a very unique location, not just inside its city limits, but the actual planet itself. If we take a look at concept art, we can see that Neon is found on a mostly water-based world, and that leads to a lot of potential features, including underwater travel. This is something that has been lacking from other Bethesda titles, and I hope that we get to see it fleshed out in some way for Starfield. The actual city of Neon holds a very unique vibe that is similar to what Good Neighbor was in Fallout 4. A very crime-ridden city which should give Starfield a different look into the space genre, which I am definitely looking forward to. A fun fact about the location is that we will be able to join a faction on Neon with Ryujin Industries. We went over this a little while earlier, but the way we will be able to join them is by being hired, and that is very different from what we have seen from other Bethesda games. Now, Aquila City has me very interested because it looks like it will be more of a space western type of place. The area surrounding the city is that of dry and mountainous regions. If there was a place that was similar to Aquila, I would have to say it would be that of the desert planet of Tatooine. Tatooine reminds me a lot of the capital city of the Freestar Collective, not just in environment, but also in how it will be. Aquila City looks very much like that remote planet home to scoundrels and bounty hunters. This could tell a different tale than that of the other main planets with a more western vibe, and having the Freestar Collective there only makes it that much better. Set in the Narian system, we have the moon of Vectera. Not much is actually known about Vectera, with it being the place where the outpost building feature was shown off. This dry and mountainous moon is still very unknown, but from what we can tell, the temperature there is negative 199 degrees, so make sure you bring your winter coat. This is a good contrast to what we saw with Crete, so I'm glad to see a good variation between the many resource worlds of the game. I want to talk for a second about Mars, because from what we can tell, it will be playing a major role in the story for Starfield. Early on in the main quest, we will be returning to our home solar system, which they have labeled as the Old Neighborhood. To me at least, this brings up a lot of questions as to what has transpired to make us leave and go to the settled systems. We know that we will be dealing with uncovering the secrets of what happened to Earth and even traveling to Mars. On Mars, you will find an early colony from when they just left Earth, which has been named Sidonia. We do see a little bit of it during the E3 showcase with a settlement in the Mars rover, but there are still many secrets to uncover as well. Then there is Earth, which I am actually the most excited to see. To be able to return to our home planet is pretty awesome, and I can't wait to see what we find there. I just love the idea of uncovering the truth about what happened to Earth, and could be a very interesting location. Just think for a moment of all the opportunities, so hopefully it is as good as we all expect it to be. Alongside the planets though, we will also be getting a number of large cities as well, like the capital of the United Colonies with New Atlantis. We've also gotten confirmation of at least 3 others, with Aquila City, the water spaceport of Neon, and of course Sidonia. Places like these will really flesh out the worlds even more and will make for a lot of interesting interactions and environments. Just imagine all of the different creatures, characters, and biomes that will be explorable, not just on the planets, but also in its cities. To kind of follow up with the idea of exploration in all of the planets comes a widely overlooked feature with outpost building. This is something that looks to be really fleshed out and adding on to what we got in Fallout 4 and 76. Now, at face value, this might seem like not as good of a feature, but when you take a look at all of the little things you'll be able to do in outpost building, then it appears to be something that will blend really well with the theme of Starfield. As said earlier, outpost building is working off the design of Fallout 4 and 76 and making it even better. How, you ask? Well, for starters, they're making it so the outpost will be able to function on its own without the player having to do everything by themselves. This is similar to something like the Sim Settlements mod from Fallout 4, and I'm excited to see how far they take this in design. With all of that being said, you will also be able to hire a crew to work the outpost and effectively manage it for you. You will also be able to take a bird's eye view of the surrounding area, step up from the settlement system in Fallout 4. The main reason for the outpost feature is extracting resources from the world you're on and using it as a somewhat home away from home. Something that is getting a lot of people excited for Starfield is the idea of how space travel is going to work. During the Xbox showcase, we got a good look at how spaceships were going to work in-game, and as of right now, it is looking to be highly designed. From space travel to its customization, there are a lot of different ways that these ships will improve upon and diversify the gaming experience. Spaceflight is something that not a lot of games have done well, but in Starfield it looks to be very fluid and actually really good. On top of that, there are space battles between ships that take it even further, and it looks to be something that will add on to the allure of Starfield even more. Not only will you be able to fly and fight with your spaceship, but also be able to customize it in ways that will affect how it performs in-game. A little more obscure thing, but we can also dock our ship into different space stations. I know, this isn't as exciting of a feature, but still, it's the little things like these that makes me believe we are going to see a great mechanic with ships. Compared to the spaceships in the game, something that not a lot of people are talking about is the scanning system of Starfield. This feature kind of removes the fact that all of the worlds will be procedurally generated to a certain extent. I mean, this is still something we don't know much about, but it is possible that each of the many planets have a unique creature, flora, or resource associated with them. This would make each of the worlds beneficial to travel to, and on top of that, the scanning system would be used as a way to identify what you have found on each one. It would fit as some sort of a way to keep track of your progress in the game, and to also let the player know what they are missing for other features out there. The scanning system looks to be something that will allow other tools out there like outpost building and spaceship travel to work to the best they possibly can be. This next one kind of goes off the scanning system with the creatures in Starfield. From what we have seen from the E3 showcase, there will be so many out there in the world space. We can see a number of different ones, like some that look like dinosaurs, giant crabs, and weird monstrosities of all kinds. I am mostly looking forward to seeing how we can interact with these alien creatures because we know some will be hostile, but what about those that are just minding their own business? It will be interesting to see the level of design that went into these aliens and how much of them there truly are. Crafting will align with both of the features of outpost building and spaceship travel. I imagine that these two areas will work in tandem with each other to make crafting the best it possibly can be. Think of it like this: you collect the resources you will use to build up more of your spaceship through the outpost system, and you can use that spaceship to fly to further galaxies and collect even more resources. Through these resources though, you will be able to craft different ship parts, new weapons, and even mod your weapon. Crafting, from what we can tell, looks to be a step up from what we saw in Fallout 4, but until we get our hands on it, we can't know for sure really. These next two kind of go hand in hand with each other, but I actually want to talk about the armor for the game. Now, armor's always been a big part of character progression in Bethesda games. The higher level you get, the harder the enemies, which means you need a higher base defense. This time around, I think there's a chance it will work a little differently in a lot of ways. I do still think we will follow a similar approach with the higher level, higher defense going on, but with things like crafting and a deeper skill tree, I think there will be a lot more options for build crafting. Say if you wanted a Juggernaut build with extreme defense, there will be perks along with different mods you can spec into so you can increase its potency. They can take it even deeper for gameplay options like stealth. Maybe the type of clothing you wear will either help or harm your chances at being found by enemies. You saw this a little in Skyrim, but when you were able to basically be invisible at all times no matter what you were wearing, it's hard to compare to it. These build options go beyond just the armor you wear, but also into the weapons you use as well. I can really see them having armor that increases certain weapon damage across the board and having equipment synergize with each other as well. There are just a lot of different options they could take when it comes to the armor in Starfield. I hope they take a look into the build crafting side of the game, because that will make it easier for replayability and just fine-tune the systems with all of the RPG elements. Sneaking has always been an underdeveloped system in games like Fallout 4, and even when they took a big step forward with it in Skyrim, it felt too overpowered at times. I think I speak for everyone when I say that those who have played Skyrim more than once have definitely used a Sneak Archer build because it was just the best and easiest one out there. Don't get me wrong, it felt very rewarding when you would be able to snipe bandits from far away without them knowing, but it just made the game feel too easy. I guess this also has to do with how the NPCs reacted to having their buddy shot right next to them and acting like nothing happened, but to me, stealth needs to be done better for Starfield. It should still have that rewarding feeling that we saw in Skyrim, but also be a little bit more challenging to not make it the easiest thing to do in the game. Something that I'm really looking forward to seeing more on is the loot system for the game. How similar will it be to Fallout 76, or will it be more like Skyrim with unique weapons designed for singular items? When it came to the loot in Fallout 76, it had a tier system to it. There would be stars next to the logo for the item going from 1 to 2 and so on. Even though I think this is flawed in design, it did help with the replayability for the game. Since it is a multiplayer game, weapons have less meaning for the unique design and instead on which perks they rolled with. I'd say the unique designs are something that Skyrim handled really well in my opinion with swords like Chillrand or Windshear. People look back on these items fondly for their distinctive appearance and would display them with pride for being that secret loot that they can go out and find. It's moments like these that I want to see return in Starfield, and in my opinion at least, I think there's a real shot for it. Even though crafting will play a big role for the game, I can still see them having tons of unique weapons and armor for players to find. I can say with certainty that I am looking forward to seeing how they will handle the loot system for Starfield because they can go in a lot of different ways. Random encounters and Radiant quests are also getting a revamp in Starfield and looks to be something very fleshed out. The example that was given to us about the upgrade goes as follows. Say if you were to return to a certain area on a planet, there might be an entire outpost, as before there was just only one person to talk to. This changes things up a lot because in previous games you would potentially talk to one person and they would send you off on a quest to, let's say, find a piece of equipment, but they would be sending you to locations on the map that we've seen or are not procedurally generated to the extent that we will see. In Starfield, it works a little differently, as these locations will be entirely different, not just the quests themselves. Think of it like this: you will find an outpost somewhere on a planet and they will ask for you to go find someone on a different part of that planet. An entirely dynamic dungeon will then appear to you on a map marker and you will have to go there to complete your quest. This honestly changes things up a lot, and I can't wait to see what it looks like in game. Starfield looks to be taking what past Bethesda games have done and making certain features even better. On the top of that list comes the new backgrounds and traits system. This isn't so much new, but instead a new iteration of the system we saw in past games like Oblivion. With these backgrounds and traits, you will be able to design the way that you want to play. If you want to play as a combat medic, you will get perks designed to fit that role. Same goes for all the other ones as well. These backgrounds will influence the way that characters in Starfield will see you and respond in different ways to it. There are also traits available to the player that take it even further. These traits are equipped with unique advantages, like starting off with a player home or having higher health in certain areas of the game, like space. This is a great addition to Starfield and will help define your player to make it your own. There are also different dialogue options with a persuasion minigame of some sorts, similar to how it was in Oblivion, but more involved because you have to think about the risks that will accompany your decision. Taking Starfield deeper into the RPG side of Bethesda games is amazing to see, and I hope we get to see more of what to expect there. We have already seen a returning feature in Starfield with the lock-picking system. This time around it is called Digipicks, but works in the exact same way, so there isn't really much to say about that. Then there's pickpocketing, which is a subtle feature that is making its return in Starfield. I know this is kind of an obvious one for it to be in Starfield, but nonetheless it makes our list. This also kind of goes along with sneaking and lockpicking in a way and should be done a lot better in Starfield. Again, the feature works fine in past Bethesda games, but it could still be done a little more in depth and overall more challenging. From the earliest we've seen the game, we heard that Starfield would be an RPG-oriented title. What could this mean? Well, for starters, it'll be going back to the days of Oblivion and Morrowind and bringing in backgrounds and traits to flesh out your character. This will harken back to the days of heavily RPG-styled games and be something that really involves the player in the story. I'm excited to see where they go with Starfield, but from all reports, its RPG elements will play a big role for the game. Something we know will be returning for Starfield is the companion system. We already know of one with the constellation robot Vasco, but we've already seen another one in the latest trailer for the game. There isn't really much we know about followers just yet, but I'm sure it will be similar to what we got in Fallout 4 and working off of that system. DLC is something that we will be seeing in Starfield. It is unknown to what extent we will be seeing it, but I imagine it will follow a similar structure to that of Fallout 4. Since outpost building will be a big part to the game, I can see them adding on to it over time in between story-based DLC for the game. Think of it like the Season Pass in Fallout 4, where it went Automatron, Wasteland Workshop, and then Far Harbor. I imagine that DLC will actually be a lot bigger with them adding entire new worlds, but that is still left up for debate. We're kind of just firing them off now, but what gets me so excited for Starfield is the latest addition to the creation engine with the Creation Engine 2. For those who don't know, Bethesda has been running with the same engine for the past 25 years, upgrading it every so often. This time we are getting the biggest revamp with the second addition to it. That means graphics will work a lot better, the system should run a lot smoother, and overall a better game experience. The final topic I want to discuss are the future games we know are after Starfield. Since Starfield is coming out this year, Bethesda will start to transition into other projects that they are working on and honestly could even be bigger than Starfield. We know that The Elder Scrolls 6 is the next game BGS is making, and Todd has already pointed out that they want it to last even longer than Skyrim has. That is just crazy if you really think about it, because Skyrim has given us so much playtime, but The Elder Scrolls 6 is definitely one I'm excited to see more on. We have also gotten confirmation of the game after that too, with Fallout 5 coming a couple years later. Even though these projects are still a long way from release, and I definitely do mean long way, with some even speculating that we won't get a new Fallout game till we hit the 2030s, it is still good to see that Bethesda is looking forward to the future and bringing back some fan favorite franchises as soon as possible. Starfield has been above and beyond one of, if not the game I'm most excited to see. There are a lot of different features for the game that are unique and fleshed out and looks to be something that I can sink countless hours into. Even though we still have a little ways to go until we can play it for ourselves, it is good to finally get some confirmation about when we will actually be seeing it. And again, even though this is everything we know about the game right now, that doesn't mean there isn't more to come during the actual showcase, so make sure you stay tuned for all of the information. But that is all for me now though, guys. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, comment any videos you want to see in the future, and I'll see you all next time.